So quick little introductions. My name is William Sayer. I'm the customer enablement lead here at Bolt. So a lot of you see a lot of familiar faces. You've been joining these workshops before. Hello to everybody who's joining us for the first time. Really excited to have you. Now, this is a very special workshop because we have a very special guest, Laurel Beyers, joining us in the workshop. So she's giving a big wave in her video, and she's been a UX specialist for the last 13 years, I believe. She's been working on an educational website for user experience. And she's also recently started as working in product in AI at 1Password. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Okay. All right. So just to give a little bit of structure for the workshop today, basically for the first 30 minutes or so, what we're going to be doing is we'll be doing a deep dive on user experience improvements, how to improve your user interface, some tricks and tips. And then for the second half, what we're going to do is we're actually going to call in Laurel's advice, and we're going to get some advice from her, going through some projects that we've built here in Bolt, basically how to think through, from the lens of a designer, what are some of the improvements that we can, make in our site, and and the best way to think about these things. Okay, looks like we've got almost 30 people, so might give it 1 or 2 more minutes for people to join, and then we will get started. So some really exciting stuff for you today. Now, you've probably noticed that with some of these AI generated sites, sometimes they all tend to look the same, but we're going to be focusing on ways that you can improve that so that we're not actually having those issues. So what I'm going to do is I'll start off by sharing my screen. Let me just check that I've got all my audio all set up for the recording. Okay. Yep, looks good. Great. So yeah, let's dive in. I'll share my screen. Now, can we all see my screen okay? Yep, it should be on a Figma frame at the moment, or a Figma website. Now, one more thing is joining us in the chat. We've got Erica and we've got Donald. So Erica, she's giving us a wave. She's in outer space right now.
Always space. Nice sweatshirt, Will.
Yeah. Oh, we all got this merch recently and we're all loving it. Right back at you, Erica. And we've got Donald joining in the chat as well. So if you've got any questions, feel free to raise your hand. We can address them on the call, or if you want, you can just ask directly in the chat and we'll be able to answer them there. Okay, all right, so let's quickly look through basically the lesson plan for today. First, we're going to import from Figma. After that, we're going to look into kind of the lore of building with upstream decisions, which is what we touched on last week's workshop. Then we're going to use AI to modify images directly within your Bolt site. We're going to use code and how to quickly change your copy without using any tokens. And then we're going to quickly look into email templates and how you can improve these so it matches the branding of your site altogether. Okay, so importing from Figma. Now, this is a really exciting feature that we've had for a while, but we've added another feature that during your site, you can actually bring in frames from Figma and use them to build. So I'll give you a quick demonstration of how that works. So here is an example of a site, just a demo portfolio site that I've been able to build. And this was directly from a Figma site. I obviously iterated it a little bit, but you can see how, kind of engaging it is. And here's another example. This was, just a few prompts. Basically, I found a portfolio site on Figma, and then we were able to use that, bring it directly into our Bolt project. We've got another example here. And this is an example of a dashboard that I was able to find on Figma. So let's come in, and for those of you who haven't used Figma before, it's definitely taken the kind of graphic design, user experience, user interface world by storm over the last 5 years, it's kind of become the industry standard. So it's a free tool that you can use. It's actually gives you a lot of permissions that you can use for free without having to pay for the, the premium tier. So what I'll do is I'll just show you basically the community page. So you can come up to the top and you can, search the community. Basically, you can choose, you can refine by like dashboards. I'm in UI kits at the moment. So if we come back to community in general, there are a huge amount of design resources out here. So I'm just going to refine this down, and here we go. Portfolio templates. So these are all Figma designs that people have shared. You can see how many people have viewed it, how many people have favored it. And these are fantastic resources that we can use. So for example, here are some of the Figma projects that I've opened. And what you can do is once you open the project, you'll see on the left here, this is basically all the layers. And then on the right, this is where we can edit all of these layers. So I'm not going to do a deep dive on Figma. I'm just going to point out that there's one important consideration when you're choosing a Figma site. So whether if you're building the Figma project yourself, you should be aware about auto layout and how that works. Because when we're bringing our project from Figma into Bolt, it uses auto layout to structure how all the components are configured. So if you're not sure what auto layout means, basically there are these things called frames. They're all nested. And then you can sort of see this little icon here that indicates that auto layout has been applied. You can also see on the right-hand panel here that we've got auto layout. So basically what it does is it automatically aligns all of the components either horizontally or vertically. So if you're using somebody's Figma project as your starting point, it's really good to come in and instead of just finding one where they've just randomly placed all of these layers everywhere, it's good to kind of see that they have structured all these layers in the form of auto layout, because that really helps when Bolt builds. Great. So now what we're going to do is to actually copy the frame link. What we're going to do is you right click the frame, we come in here and we go copy link to selection. So now that we've got that link copied to our clipboard, we're going to come over, open a new Bolt project. I'm going to jump over to Opus. And all we do is we come in here and we click Figma, and we're going to paste the URL, which was that frame link that we just copied. And now we're going to import Figma frame inside of Bolt. So now what it does is it basically fetches all of those auto layouts, and it uses this partner called Anima to generate code from that Figma frame. So this is gonna, take a few minutes. And while it's doing that, let's have a look in some of these other projects. So now, as I touched on before, previously we could only use Figma to kick off the build, but now we're actually able to use Figma to import these frames along the way. So here's an example. Say I want to enhance my site by adding some really nice buttons or toggles. For example, here's a Figma community portfolio. And you can see this is a toggle where somebody has created this really engaging dark mode, light mode toggle. You can see it looks like nighttime when it's in dark mode. You can see it looks like daytime when it's in light mode with these, cool images behind it. So now if we want to implement that onto our site, it's actually really quite easy. What we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing. We're going to right click the copy link to selection. So now we've got that copied in our clipboard. We're going to come back, and in this site, what we're going to do is we are going to come to the little plus button on the bottom left here, and we're going to say import Figma frame. Now it's asking us for that URL that we've just copied to clipboard, and we're going to paste that URL. Now we're going to import that frame into Bolt, and we're going to see that come across. Now what happens if we actually paste that into our browser? It opens up a web version of Figma, and it shows us the exact frame that we've copied. So now it's brought that frame over into the preview here, and you can see that little Figma icon in the top right. Now this is great. This is the starting point, and we're going to now use the agent, and we're basically going to instruct it to use this. So a prompt like this should work. I have just attached a Figma frame into the chat. It shows a toggle with both dark and light mode. Please implement this toggle into the navigation bar of my page so that when the toggle is on the left, it shows the top part of the Figma frame, and when the toggle is on the right, it shows the bottom part of the Figma frame. So basically just describing like the frame that we have included and how we want it to be implemented in our project. Now we're going to send that build off. Great, so let's jump back over, and this was the build that we were just able to create from that first project that we were looking at. So we were looking at this one here. We copied this and we used this to create this project, and you can see the build is done. It's done a really good job of it. Granted that the hero isn't quite how it shows here, but apart from that, looking at this site, all these sections, like if we look at this kind of like wavy background or this line that we've got going through here, we scroll down on the site, we can see it's actually done a really good job of copying that across. And this goes to show that in the process of about 10 minutes, we were able to create what looks like an award-winning site and bring that directly in here. Now, you could further take this one step further and say something like, this looks fantastic, comma, I would like you to add some interactive animations so that the page is more engaging. And so here's prompt number 2. We're going to send that off, and we're going to see what that does in a second. Great. Do we have any questions about Figma implementation so far? As I was saying, a lot of the times when we're building in Bolt, we can either just go directly to the prompt, but if you've already created, a design in Figma, or you want to be pixel perfect, that's where you can, bring these designs over. And also it's great for you to leverage the huge community that Figma has created and some of the projects that are already on there. Okay, so while that's building, let's quickly have a look at, it's still working on that toggle, so we'll give that a little bit more to work on, and let's jump back to the lesson plan. So I think we've covered all of that. Now, an important point for us to look at is bringing in the Figma components during the build. So this example, how, we've already created the project and then we're adding a Figma component. This is something that we're currently rolling out. So it's behind a feature flag, and some of you probably won't have access to this. Some of you may, some of you won't, but hopefully by next week, by Monday next week, it should be fully rolled out to everybody. Great. So now the next topic to cover is, the law of upstream decisions. And this is something we touched on last week for those who are new to it. This is basically the idea that if you establish, proper patterns for your project to follow early on, then you don't need to go through all of your code later. And so an example is like colors. Instead of using like hex values, hashtag A752B6, like to show a certain color, instead of hard coding those into your project, it's good for you to reference those in like a configuration file. So because Bolt uses Tailwind, we have the two configuration files that we're really using to build out the structure of our project is called Tailwind config and Tailwind .css. So it's some of these, like you can see in your project, if we come over into files, if we look down, we've got like a Tailwind configuration file, and then we've got the Tailwind CSS. And so basically, usually by default, these are created in your project. However, it's good to add project knowledge to these into your project as well. So for example, what we can do is we can copy some like a prompt like this. So design system implementation. Design tokens should be referenced from Tailwind config and Tailwind CSS files. If a new component needs to be created with a different style, then please add this new style to these files. Follow best practices when creating and reusing these styles. So it's good to, just add reference to this into our project knowledge. Something I just noted recently is that when you do start a project from a Figma file or a Figma project, basically the project knowledge is actually empty. If you start any other Bolt projects from a prompt, it will have default project instructions, but when you're creating it from a Figma project, this is empty. So I'm just going to come in and make sure I add this so that whenever we're building any future components, it makes sure to reference those configuration files. Great, so we've saved that prompt. Now, this is an exciting one, using AI to modify images. Now, this is a recent feature that we've pushed out that some of you probably aren't fully aware of. I'm just going to come into another project, and basically I'm going to come through here and I'm going to show you how we can use AI to modify these images. So some of you have probably heard about Google's Nano Banana. It's their really great image editing model, and the reason why it's kind of taken the community by storm is because it's so accurate in just making small changes to an image rather than changing the entire thing. So I'll demonstrate how we can actually change an image. Basically, we come in, we get the select tool, and once select has been selected, we come in and we select the image. Now, you'll see the image has been selected for inspection, and it has this edit with AI button. Now, what we can do is if we click on this, it'll now show us what the original image is, and then we can describe the change that we want to make. So I'm going to say, please change this so that it is a nighttime scene and remove the sky. Oh, whoops, my bad. Remove clouds from the sky. Great, so we're going to send this prompt off. It's going to generate the image. This uses Bolt tokens to do so. And then give it about 10 seconds or so. And here we go. Look at this. We can now actually compare the old image with the new image. And because it uses Nano Banana, you can see that the new image is pretty much identical. You can see that that hut is in the same place, the hills are in the same place, and but it's just changed it to be a nighttime scene. So now we're going to press use this image. Oh, I have been editing this in another tab. I was testing out a different feature, so I'm just going to save and overwrite. So now it should replace the original image with the newly generated one. It's thinking it's working, and it'll make that update fairly soon. Great, so let's quickly jump back into our other projects. Let's see if this has been completed. Okay, we've now got this dark mode, light mode toggle. And so have a look at this. Now we can see in the project, in the navigation header, that we have this toggle here. And look at that, it works perfectly. While we're on dark mode, the toggle looks like a moon. When we click it, it goes over and it looks like a sun. And that just is, I think it's incredible that you can find some really well thought out designs like this in Figma. You can bring them into your project like so. Now, obviously, it's not changing the site the site's color palette to be light mode, but that is just one prompt away. All you could say is that, the light mode, dark mode toggle isn't actually changing my site. So please make sure that it works throughout the entire site. All right, Eric, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah,
On
question?
in the other example where you're using the image, the AI editing,
Yep.
where is it storing that? I mean, some instances it saves in a public Bolt database bucket or something. Other times it tries to save it in the project. Maybe I'm referring to like old versions of Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
But I've ran into issues where I upload a file and
Mm-hmm.
it saves it in the project, but then later on it loses it in some capacity.
Really interesting. From my understanding, it's a good question. I think it does save it in its own bucket. Maybe Donald, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It doesn't have it in the user file storage. I think it usually, will create an image URL and then basically store that sort of in the project file system itself. I don't know exactly if I don't know, Erica or Donald, are you? It's interesting that Eric, you're saying it's been saved in different locations each time.
It depends on how you prompt it. The default that I've found is it tries to save uploaded images, and this is honestly from a while ago.
Uh-huh.
It tries to save it in the Bolt. Sometimes it uploads it into the database if you ask it to, but sometimes it tries to save it in like the Bolt project.
Yeah.
Like back in the files, the Bolt, like in that same prompt
Uh-huh.
section.
Uh-huh. So let me have a look here. Basically, I'm just inspecting the code, and it seems like this should be the image. Oh, no, that's a different one.
Yeah, I think it should
actually,
be saved in the public folder.
Yeah.
here we go.
If you don't have it, like sometimes at first you don't have the asset folder in the public folder, so maybe it's going to be confused, but if you have it at first, it should always save.
Yeah, it looks like this could be it, generated 176. And then if we, here we go.
Yeah, and I've had instances where that file is lost after X period of time.
That's really interesting, Eric. Thanks for identifying that.
I have a project that it's live happened on, but it's not game breaking or anything. It just have to intentionally prompt it to save in a Bolt database, in a public Bolt database, so it's accessible.
No, that's a really good call out. I think we'll be speaking to the team about that for sure. Thanks for identifying that.
Yeah, those should stay there, so that's very weird.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for that, Eric. Now, moving on, because I know I want to get to the fun stuff with Laurel soon. Let's quickly go over changing code to change the copy. So, for example, we're in our project here, and we want to change, some of this copy. Now, what we could do is we could say, we could prompt it itself, change, instead of welcome to my portfolio, change it to say, welcome to my site or welcome to my beautiful site. Now, if we prompt that, it might take a minute or two to do, and it will use tokens. Now, if we want to make that change directly, a very simple, quick, easy way to do it is you just copy the text itself, jump into code. Now, you're probably wondering, well, how do I find it in the code? That's where you come into search. You just type the exact copy, and it shows, okay, it's in this file. And then if you click on it, it shows directly here, welcome to my portfolio, beautiful site. We make the change, and then we press save. It's important to save it on the top right. Now, if we come back and inspect it, you can see that the change has been made instantly. So that is the fastest way to make copy changes, and it's also doesn't use any tokens when you do so. So that's a good thing to know as well. Now, let's quickly touch on email templates, then we can jump into the fun stuff for Laurel. So basically, some of you have probably seen this before with the email templates. Now, the Bolt database needs to be configured for this to work. You come into auth, click in email, and then basically we're going to go edit email templates. Now here, when users sign up, when you're inviting a new user, for example, if they're changing their email address, we can preview all of these emails, and you can also change the code here. So confirm your sign up to my app. If we now come into preview, you can see the preview of the email. Now, this isn't really on brand at all, but if we want to change this and we want to make it, appealing for our users, we can use something like React Email. And this is a great site where, say we want to, let's look for a component that we like, maybe a testimonial. So we're going to open this. We've got a great one here by Steve Jobs. Now, if we want to put this directly in the email itself, we can come over into the HTML. We're going to copy all of this, jump back into our Bolt site, change the code. We're going to paste the new code we have, and we're going to preview. And there we can see our new email for sign up is going to show this. Now, while we're on the topic of, changing the email templates, I also want to show you some component libraries and how to implement them. This can be a great way to kind of supercharge how your app looks. Now, React Bits is one of my favorite. Now, we've got a whole bunch of different text animations. You can basically see how this blur fades in. We've got like a cool shiny text effect. There's a huge amount of components that you can go through and basically say you like the look of this. Let's see what else we've got out here. So like an animated list, reflective cards. We can do, all sorts of things. I'm just going to do maybe this electric border. Now, if we want to implement it, we can jump into code. Now, there's two important steps for you to do. One is copy this npm command. So we're just going to copy this. On previous workshops, I've shown how to implement this manually by installing it, but you can actually prompt it in the agent as well. So say, let's come down to this section here. We're going to say, for the section that shows where I've worked, I would like you to implement this new effect onto the design lead card. Say here is the installation instructions. So now we're going to paste that command npx. Now let's jump back over into React Bits, and then the second part is this code. Make sure we're in TypeScript and in Tailwind. We're going to copy this. Sorry, what was our project? Here we go. And then say, here is an example implementation of this effect. Paste that. We're going to paste the code. Now, it's important to note that this is an example implementation of it. So it's just going to use that structure so it knows how to implement it properly. Now we're going to send that off. Hopefully in one prompt, it'll be able to implement that engaging component here from React Bits. Okay, all right. So that's most of the workshop covered. We've now got another half an hour, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do a bit of a collaboration with Laurel, and we're gonna look at two sites in particular, and we're basically these were something that was built with Bolt in a few prompts. And this is actually kind of using a new prompting technique, which kind of excited to share with you guys. If we come down now to create like a really performant project requirement document, usually this is like the first prompt that we'll create a Bolt project with, is I just want to show you this new technique. It basically went into Claude and I said, task, I want you to create an outstanding initial prompt for a web app that we'll be creating using Bolt.new. And then we basically say that it uses Opus 4.5, and I want you to do research into the best way to prompt this model, and then the user flow. Basically, I haven't outlined any features at all that I would like. I basically said the user flow, we're building an app that should help people creating a shopping list based on their user's location and the time of year. From this information, the agent should do research into what food is seasonable and is naturally available to the user. So I'm basically describing this user flow and put all of this into Claude, and I said, create a PRD from this, which it created this incredibly long document that explains, all of the different features and how to implement all of these features as one big PRD. I then copied this and brought it over into Bolt, used Opus 4.5, and I did it twice, and it was able to create in basically one prompt the two demos that you're going to see. So here's one of them. And then the second one is this one. I'll give you a quick demo. So we're going to click on Discover My Harvest. We're going to use our current location. And then from that, it's able to do research. It's been able to create these server functions. I've added my Gemini API key in, and it basically has now been able to determine all of the seasonal fruit in my location based on this time of year. And notice that I can select my favorite ingredients, which then creates recipe ideas over here. And then you can say we like, citrus, Brussels sprouts, and butternut squash. You can then generate these AI recipes. And I'm just so amazed that it can create a site like this based on one or two prompts. But there are some limitations, and we do need to come through. And obviously this isn't production ready. We've got some overlaps here. And it's important to go through and tweak these sites so we can do some final implementation. So with that, I'm going to bring Laurel online. Hopefully, she can say hello to everybody. Maybe Laurel, would you like to quickly go over your background in user experience and how you got started?
Yeah. So I got started 13 years ago. I was actually a theater and art degree person, and I took a digital art class that evolved into learning more about UX design. It wasn't called that at the time. It was just web development or something. But it really caught my eye. And after that, I kind of just was self-taught because I was done with going to school. And I started picking up freelance jobs. I was trying to learn a little bit of code in the sense of HTML and CSS, even slicing in Adobe, if anyone knows what that is. Don't recommend. But that eventually evolved to me actually going full-time into design. I worked as a graphic designer to start at a credit union, nothing fancy, but it was on the marketing team, and got to play with different websites and building things out like that along with print brand. But it evolved into product design when I went to work at a design agency called Zerb. They also had a coded framework that I feel was a predecessor, I guess, to design systems. And that really got me thinking in a systemic way about how can we make one component that you adjust one place and, it goes and adjusts everything everywhere else on the site. And so I'm very much rooted in systems thinking because of that. And eventually I landed at a startup. It was called Nyanza. It was very much a B2B network analytics AI tool that none of us probably have heard of because it was not for people like us. But that led to an acquisition into VMware, and then eventually VMware got acquired by Broadcom. So I've been in a lot of acquisitions, designing a lot of products and integrating things. But last year I actually took the year off to dive deeper into how do I use AI for myself and not just building things that have AI in them. So vibe coding became a passion of mine. It definitely makes developing things a whole lot easier than the small amount of coding that I used to do in the past. And then I just started literally a month ago at 1Password. So now I'm the director of product design for a lot of their AI initiatives and their security initiatives, specifically trying to make security easier for people using AI. So more on that another time if you follow me on LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm happy to be here and see how I can help out and evolve. I thought what you were showing was like a pretty good start. That's the thing. I'm always mind blown with vibe coding already, but we can fine tune it. Sure.
Yeah. Great. No, thanks for that intro. And, it's funny because it usually often starts as a pretty good start, but then it's these final tweaks that we have to do that often takes a while. And, that's when kind of you get into the nitty gritty, but that's often kind of what makes or breaks the product, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, great. So maybe to start off, we've got these two different sites. Maybe should we start off with this one here? Like if you imagine you have just created this prompt and it's created this product for you and you're going through like what are the sort of things that you're looking for to like thinking from maybe the user's perspective, also a graphic design perspective. It's like, what do we want to have on the top of our mind when we're going through something like this?
Right. Yeah. So I think of things in two different ways. So to your point, there's kind of the user interface. So the way that it looks, colors, layout, typography, visual imagery, animations. And then I also think of user experience, which is more about how does this make me feel and what is the objective, the job to be done that I'm trying to get to? And is that like really obvious or is it too chaotic for me to really rationalize where I'm going? So there's a bit of like human psychology to it. And if anyone's interested, there's a website called UX Principles, I think, and that kind of goes through like different psychological concepts of how you group things together and how that psychologically resonates with people. So I'll do that after this. But when I'm first here, I think I naturally kind of go to the visual side of things, the UI side first, and I don't see anything that helps me really click into not literally, but like my brain click into what this does, and it requires me to have that extra effort to read, which most people don't. So even though there's a big sentence here that says "eat what earth grows near you," which may sound a little weird actually when I say that. I feel like some sort of like hero image or visual or even a video would be really helpful to help me learn that very quick, right? So maybe there's a place we can go grab some sort of imagery that will represent what this app does behind this text. That's the first thing.
Yeah, great. So maybe let's jump through to the next step when it actually shows the ingredients. We could take a screenshot, we'll put that into the prompt and see if we can, use that screenshot to help us add to that hero. So
sure. I mean, we could do it two ways. Your point, it's like a mock-up of the app itself and what functionality you get from it. And then there's like the other side, which is like the marketing side of it, where you're really trying to tell a story, which might mean you're showing someone in a grocery store, right? Or at a farmer's market, because that's more seasonal. But we could go with the approach you just said, where we're taking a screenshot of this. Can it render this image in like a kind of device-esque mockup?
Yeah, let's
try it.
So let's say we take a screenshot of this, bring this in, and we'll make sure that that drops in okay. There we go. Are there any prompts that come to mind, Laurel?
So I'll need your help wordsmithing this, but my mind goes to showing this. Well, we can do it two ways. Sorry, my brain's going wild. So one is that we take this screenshot and ask it to put it into probably a mobile device. If we're thinking about who's using this and how, it's probably that they're using it on their phone, right? Because that's the most common people use for consumer, at least. So I don't know if we can do this, but I would see if we can take these components and do a mock-up of this app in a phone, and we can use that image to kind of showcase the app in the hero.
Yeah. I think we'll probably have to break it down into two steps where we'll bring this image and we'll put it into the hero. And then once we've done that, we should be able to, as we demonstrated before, use AI to edit the image and say, place this screenshot inside of a device mockup.
Perfect. That's
So
great.
I have attached an image. I would like you to add this image to the hero section of my website so that it better demonstrates how the product works. I'm going to jump over to Opus. I'm sure Sonnet would do a good job of this, but just for demo purposes, I like to give it its best shot.
Yeah.
Great. So we'll let that work. While it's doing that, let's jump over. Now, this is a completely different build, but basically it does the same thing. And so to give some of you some context on basically creating a different prompt, when I was creating the initial PRD, I created one PRD and that created this site. And then I basically said, this time do some research into your customers and think about who will be using a product like this, and please create some like styling and design decisions based on the user. And so that's why it's ended up giving us this different app experience. You can see we've added an interactive map, and it's saved all of the, when a user has already looked up a certain location, it then saves this to the map. If we want to basically use the product. Okay, we've got a little bit of a glitch there, but let's say we add in our city manually. You can see it's got a similar user experience, but it's a little bit different. If we select the ingredients, they now appear here in the kitchen. It comes up with these recipes. You can then add them to a list. And then if you look at the list, it's able to basically create a shopping list that you're able to use from your phone when you're in the grocery store itself. So this is a slightly different user experience, but it basically tries to have the same effect to the user. So yeah, is there anything you'd like to go through here? Anything that jumps out immediately for you, Laurel?
Yeah. So we went, I'm just thinking about the user's journey. So we made an account, we shared our location, and now it plops us into just like this screen of a bunch of options, which may be overwhelming, and perhaps we need to guide the user a bit to explain how to utilize this. Otherwise, they might just be like, oh, I don't know. I know it's for us maybe a little simple, like, oh, I just need to select all the ingredients. But is there a way we can maybe prompt to give like a guided tour? Is that pushing it?
Let's give it a go. The whole purpose of these workshops is just kind of see what our limits are. So yeah, no, that's a great idea. I'll jump over into Opus and I'll, add a little bit of context like that and say, this looks fantastic. However, it may be a little intimidating or confusing for a first-time user. Please add either tooltips or some sort of guidance along the way that helps guide the user through the experience. Is there anything you'd like to add to a prompt like that?
Yes, and I'll give some warnings. My dog might start barking in a moment because the delivery man's here. But so one, like I was thinking about the kind of prompt I would probably give, and I feel like explaining like key parts of the product, of like where things are. So like, hey, well, welcome to whatever we're calling this app. Find your local veggie. and we're excited to help you build your grocery list with locally sourced blah blah blah. And then step 2 would like show you, it would be like a little I guess I don't know what the technical term is, but like little helper modal would pop up on the different tabs that we have. So we would point at discover and be like, this is where you select the kinds of ingredients that interest you right now. And then it would go to step 2, right? The kitchen is where you can pick different recipes. Step 3, this is the list of the groceries you'll take to the store. Check them off while you're, picking the things out the aisle. So that's how I would give it. Also, one thing that just stood out to me is that the theme is down at the bottom in the nav, which is interesting to me because as a designer that does not deserve the real estate of the core functionality of the product. So for this, I would honestly, it could be in the upper right corner, but I would hide it in settings. It's not valuable, and the more you can remove and simplify for these products, the better, so that your users actually do the thing they're there for, which is usually not changing the color scheme.
Some great insight there, right? Design is all about simplicity, right? You want to make it as simple as possible for your users so you're not confusing them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I can list a couple other things that stand out to me if that helps.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So another thing that kind of stands out to me is accessibility in some places. So there are browser extensions. I don't know how well they play. I bet they play pretty well with Bolt still. But basically checking the color contrast, and we could probably even just prompt it to be like, do an accessibility review, and make sure that the color contrast of the text, if I could point, you can see the little, I guess, pill thing within the card that says like produce, and even the tap to flip. Those are probably not meeting the accessibility standards out there. And accessibility is important. It helps everyone, but it also is important because there's legalities around it. And especially if you have this app in the EU and it's consumer focused, like you don't want to be putting something out there that hopefully does really well, but then you get fined later. Like just solve for it now. It's easier. But what I would do here is ask, I guess, Bolt to maybe make those more accessible and making sure that the color contrast is like ADA compliant or AA compliant is the best way to say it, I think. Does that make sense? Not everyone knows about accessibility as much as I do. So if we need to clarify what that even means, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah. No, and I think, I think with accessibility, like we can also, it's great, as you were saying before, like to meet kind of global standards. And, for the people who are maybe vision impaired, it helps them out. But there's also the benefit of like SEO and like the search results. Like I think Google will basically index your site and understand what some of these, how well it responds to some of these accessibility checklists, and uses that to rank your site. So there are other benefits as well, right?
Yeah, good. I actually never heard the SEO one, but I feel like that is a very reasonable one. I think what's been standing out to me the most is the EU regulations that went into effect last year, and just any new code added to your product, if it's not accessible, like each country can fine you like an absorbent amount of money. And it's just like, well, okay, I don't really want to have to backlog all of these bugs and issues later. And all these products make building accessibility a lot easier, but you can't just assume that it's like that out of the box. Even the best design systems that you work with, they're built with accessibility in them. However, if you put two components together, that might break the accessibility. So it's not as straightforward as you would think. But I do think there's enough documentation out there in the world that these LLMs are pulling from, that doing an accessibility review or like explicitly asking it to do that and adjust things would help move the marker closer to being compliant.
Great. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm just going to shoot away at a prompt, and hopefully we can incorporate both of those things that you said. So I'll dictate it and we'll see how well it goes. This looks great. However, for a new user, after they've entered their location and they see the Discover page, it may be a little bit intimidating and unclear. Please add a product walkthrough using tooltips to describe the Discover page, the kitchen page, and the list page. This should act as a product tour so that they can click through each of the tooltips to describe. Oh, oops, my bad. Sometimes it's hard doing this live. They can through each of the tooltips to see what each of these pages do. And then
I think it's called coach marks, by the way. Tooltips is when it's like a little info button that you click. a coach mark, and it might misinterpret that, so that's why I'm clarifying. Coach marks are actually like the guided thing that you would get with
fantastic.
There's a lot of third-party tools like Pindo that you can go add coach marks.
Coach marks. Great. Okay, thank you for that. That's the experience coming through. And now also please pay attention to accessibility and look at the contrast between text and background, specifically for the produce pills and other similar pills on the Discover page. Great, so we're going to send that off, and let's come back to our first one. Okay, here we go. Great. So
there's still some things I would tweak, but this is definitely like more visually intriguing and understandable right away.
100%. Yeah, exactly. Great call. I think people are instantly like, okay, I don't necessarily need to read this sentence that doesn't really make sense. I can just come down and look. And then let's see if we can put this inside of maybe like a laptop. I think because of the aspect ratio, it's probably better to put it on a screen, like a laptop screen or something. So we'll edit this with AI. This is the screenshot of a product. I would like you to put it inside a mock-up so it looks as though this image is shown on a laptop screen. It should be beautiful and aesthetic. Let's see how this goes.
So while that's working, some things were coming to mind because I've seen on websites, and I've done this myself when designing, you don't have to take it so literal, but this is where I think AI can probably do this, but you would really need to like be able to say the prompt really well. So this is like, we want to remove the background almost, right?
Yes.
I want to look at the laptop, like the cool floating laptop mode.
Yeah.
Or you can add a person here using the computer that like is like in the kitchen. Maybe that's a prompt we can use too.
Yeah. Personally, I like the floating laptop idea.
It looks sleeker.
Yeah.
But go ahead. You say that.
Okay. We'll just set off the prompt and then we'll discuss. This looks great, but instead of showing it in a real world situation, I would just like to see a floating laptop, and it should be on a dark background, and it should be closer up so I can see a larger version of the screen. Send that off. Okay, sorry, Laurel.
No, you're fine. Yeah. So one thing that I've done before in the past is you kind of take like these shots of the UI, and then you kind of break away from like the literal sense of it being in a device and have like these kind of floating components, right? And that's actually what it kind of looks like already on the screen. And this is oftentimes where I'll start to put on my little graphic design marketing hat and add some like fluff and flair to things. You see this often on like Apple's well, not necessarily Apple, but Apple and like Google sites, if you're like looking at their different products, and they'll just showcase them in ways that you would never see in real life, but it just like adds that visual intrigue. That's good.
Totally.
Hey, it generated something.
Yeah, not bad, right? So if we use this image, it'll put it in. Now I'd probably I'm not sure how good we are at actually removing the background in the image editor, but that's something you can do in Figma or somewhere else quite easily.
The other thing is changing the text maybe to something that's cool. Yeah. This is kind of like, this isn't a bad font or typeface. It's a little better than some of the out of the box AI generated, stuff I've seen. But it's something we can have fun with for sure. I think a big giveaway is always like where it has like part of the text highlighted as a different color. And you're like, AI did that.
Yeah.
Not fair because I like it and I don't think only AI does that, but now it's like that's all that is generated.
That's right. That's right. Us designers are going to have to figure out a new trend so that AI doesn't copy us. Yeah.
We've done it before.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't want to stay too long on this, but if we just to show y'all like where my thinking would go with this is like trying to like extract the background from this image so it is just the floating laptop by itself and not in a glowing box, right? I don't know if we could do that or not, but
Yeah, let's try it. I haven't actually tried this yet, but the background. Let's see how well it works. Great, so maybe let's jump over to our other one, and we'll see how well it implemented this prompt. Here we go. So it's got this start tour. Welcome to Forage. Let's take a quick tour. Start tour. So discover all seasonal ingredients. Filter by category. So I guess this is a little better. It looks like it's when it says save your favorites, it's actually changing the background screen. Now it's in the kitchen. So we're not actually getting to explore that screen. Maybe we change the modal. So instead of it completely blurring the background and ignoring it, it could maybe pop out from the side so we could still interact with the page. But this is such a great user experience tip that you've been able to give us, because a lot of the time as developers or designers, we'll work on our project day and night and it will be super clear to us. But for somebody who's coming the first time, it can still be really unclear. So this is a great suggestion.
Yeah, of course. I know it's hard when you're in the thick of it to zoom out but that's why user research is so important, right? And it can be done really easily by just bringing a friend over, not telling them what you want to hear though.
Yeah.
So really letting them just explore it, making note of like where they're getting stuck, asking them open-ended questions to how they would improve it, and using that feedback to then prompt Bolt to fix. And one thing I've just thought of is like using like the transcript thing in like ChatGPT to record that conversation, then ask ChatGPT to make that a list of improvements that you can feed into Bolt, and then copy and paste that into Bolt to go fix them.
And there's a great example how, our workflows can be dramatically improved by something like a tool like AI, like what you just said previously.
Right, that would take an hour to do.
Before. Yeah. Another good tip with user research that I heard once, there was a study that came out of Google, and it was basically saying that if you put your product in front of 5 people, 80% of the time you're going to get the most important insights, right? So you don't need to do 100 people. You can just start off with 5, and usually that'll give you enough suggestions or changes that you might want to make, and then you can implement those and then go test it with another 5 people.
Yeah. I see Michael asking, like, what is your suggestion experience, UX experience testing? So UX experience testing is UX research, and testing is just part of that. It's like usability testing. For just some general understanding, a UX designer, or often we're called product designers, we're a bit of a generalist. So oftentimes we will do the research side, though, like teams I work on now, research is its own independent thing. But if you're ever like looking for more knowledge on that, or you're wanting to work with someone that has done research before, those are kind of the titles you could look for and work with them. If you're trying to do it yourself, there's several tools out there. One that is more on not like a huge famous popular tool yet, but that is near and dear to my heart because I helped build the first version of it, is called Helio. And it's from that design agency I mentioned, Zerb. And I feel like that might be helpful for people like y'all who are kind of like solopreneurs trying to just get feedback on things, because they have, I don't work there now, obviously, but they have like ways to connect you with a pool of users, and you can take different screenshots of your product, or even maybe a test link and it will like record and then give you like insights into how to improve everything. They also do like some sort of AI generated like report on if your website's meeting like usability and design standards and metrics. So might be worth looking into. I can share a link. I haven't used it in great detail, but it seems really promising for user research stuff.
Fantastic. Worth looking into there for sure. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. We're right on 11:30. Well, it depends where you are in the world, but we're at the end of our workshop. And so it looks like we didn't quite get the background out of this. That's probably a limitation of the AI editing tool, but it's not hard to copy this image over into something else, remove the background, and then paste in the new one into the chat. So yeah, if we've got maybe time for one question, if anybody has something from the audience that they're like absolutely stinging to ask, feel free to ask Laurel.
Well,
Louis.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, Louis. I interrupted you. I know Carlos in the chat earlier was looking to review the email template settings really quick. I'm not sure if we have time for that, but just wanted to let you be aware of that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do that with you at the end, Carlos, but I'll stay on after with you and I'll show you that for anybody who's interested. But just to respect Laurel's time, Louis, if you've got a question for Laurel, feel free to go for it.
And really, what's your advice on using periods that sentences? I just looked at had a period at the end of each that goes near you, and the advice I always get is don't use periods unless it's a full sentence. Do you have advice on that?
You were breaking up a little bit, but from what I could hear, you're asking about adding sentences to the end of like copy in a website.
I was just asking, what's your advice on whether to use a period at the end of a full sentence or not?
Yeah. So if it's in bullet points on a website and like there, you probably don't need it. All I would say is make it consistent. But if you're doing like blog posts and like editorial things, you definitely want proper punctuation. For these things, though, I typically don't do it in the headers. Or the bullet points, but like in the secondary sentences, like the body copy, I would.
Great question. I
do have a meeting I have to hop to, sadly.
Yeah,
but,
guys,
feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to chat.
Yeah, guys, let's give a big thank you to Laurel. I'll drop her LinkedIn in the chat. If you want to add her there, I think it should have gone out in the email, but we'll also add it in the chat. And thanks again, Laurel. You've been a huge help. It's always a pleasure to have your experience on a call like this. So just a big thank you from everybody in our community for joining us.
Of course. Thank you all so much. And good luck coding and vibe coding and all that.
All right. Thanks, Laurel. Bye. Now, Carlos, I'll open the chat. I see there's a lot of questions in there, so I'm just reading through now. Can you please show the prompt steps to add the products page to the hero section? Was that the prompts to add the products page to the hero section? So just basically to outline what I did is I went into the products page or the section, whatever part you want of your app to show it in the hero. I just took a screenshot and dragged that screenshot into the agent. And then I said, can you please add this image into the hero section to advertise the product? And then it was able to add it. And then once we've done that, we can then refine the product or that image using AI just by selecting it and then pressing the button edit with AI. Great. Were there any other? I know there was a question about maybe email templates. So feel free, Carlos, if you want to ask the question directly, or maybe type it again in the chat, or Erica, if you know exactly.
It was up in the chat. I'll try and find it. Let's see.
Okay.
Or Carlos, if you want to hop in and let us know.
Yeah. We can show the email template settings again. Sure.
Settings, yeah.
Let's just give a quick overview on how to go in there. So the first thing is you got to make sure that you've got your Bolt database configured. We come into authentication, come into email. So I'll show that one more time. Authentication. And then come into email. So we click that, we open that up. And then down the bottom here, it says edit email templates. So we click that and it opens up all of these email templates that will be sent to your user. For example, to confirm sign up or to invite new users, magic links, reset password, whatever it may be. Let's say it's the reset password. So we've got two tabs here. We've got the source, which is HTML, and then we've got the preview. So if we want to make any changes here, we just change all of this code. Now notice that it's got something like this, the confirmation URL. Now, if you do that, that'll actually put in a dynamic URL. And now if you wanted to add that somewhere else, you just click down here, confirmation URL, and it's able to add. If you're unsure what each of these do, you have basically got an outline. Let me just close this. I've got an outline here, and all I did was I just took a screenshot of these. I confirmed them with our team, but I just took a screenshot, and you can ask something like Gemini to basically explain what each of these do. Feel free to take a screenshot of this if you'd like. And now if you want to use a good resource, you can come into, this is react.email. Basically, they've got a whole variety of different components. So you can explore the components and say you want to add, I don't know, it might be like a feedback section or like a marketing, say like, okay, I like this, I want this to be in my email. We can then just jump into code. We can copy the HTML. You can also basically prompt Bolt to create this. So I could copy all of this code, go into Bolt and say, here's an example. I would like you to use, a similar bento grid, but change it to, match my, basically match the branding of my site. Let's come back into the email template. So with that copied, with HTML copied, we're going to save the changes. We're going to jump over to preview, and we can see a preview. Let's reset. Here we go. And so there we see a preview. So it's important not to forget about things like this, because this is often one of our high touch points when a customer interacts with your site. They'll often be getting these default emails that's sent to them. So that kind of it's good to match the branding of your site with the email communications as well. Great. So we've gone a little bit over time. I hope you guys have all enjoyed the workshop today. I hope it's helped you guys, gain a little bit of an understanding on, some tricks and tips we can do to improve the UI of our web apps. Thanks for joining. As always, a big thank you, Erica and Donald, for being in the chat. Thank you so much, Erica. I can see there's a lot of questions that you've answered, and if you guys feel like it, please leave some feedback for the workshops in Luma. It really helps out us to determine whether we want to continue to invest resources and if these workshops are useful for you. And with that, sign out. Next week, we've got the workshop back on Thursday. And we'll be touching on development versus production data. So hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to see all of you guys next week. As I said, I'm going to put Laurel's LinkedIn into the chat. So stay online if you want to see that in a minute or two. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Signing out. See you next time.